I had some great conversations at the recent HR Tech Europe conference, and this episode is the first of two featuring the shorter interviews I recorded there. Keep listening for insights on the strange new reality of the talent market, the gap between AI hype and what's actually working, and how a 5-generation workforce is changing the rules for everyone. Support for this podcast comes from CoderPad. Here's a question that should keep you up at night. When your next engineering hire sits down at their computer on day one, are they the person you interviewed? Or are they someone who just knew how to perform for an interview? Meta discovered a dangerous gap between interview performance and actual job performance. So did LinkedIn, so did Yahoo. They all found the same culprit. Their hiring process was testing for skills that no longer reflect how the best engineers actually work. AI hasn't just changed how software gets built, it's changed what it means to be good at building software. And the companies who are winning the war for technical talent, they've already rewritten their interview playbook. CoderPad is the platform powering that shift. From AI-enabled live interviews to realistic project-based screens, CoderPad helps you see candidates in action, not just on paper. Meta scaled to 16,000 interviews using it. Yahoo cut recruiter screening time by over 50%. MNTN is onboarding new hires in days instead of weeks. This April, if you're still banning AI in interviews, you're not just behind, you're screening out your best future hires. Visit coderpad.io/podcast to talk to the team. That's coderpad.io/podcast.
There's been more of scientific discovery, more of technical advancement and material progress in your lifetime and mine than in all the ages of history.
Hi there, welcome to episode 792 of Recruiting Future with me, Matt Alder. Talent acquisition is sitting in a strange place right now. AI is in every conversation, but the work of actually hiring people is getting harder rather than easier. Application volumes are swinging in unprecedented ways, the workforce itself is changing shape, and the reality on the ground is some distance from the hype. So, what's actually going on in European talent acquisition right now? In this episode, recorded at HR Tech Europe in Amsterdam, I'm joined by two guests who spent decades watching the industry evolve. Wolfgang Brickwedde from the Institute of Competitive Recruiting shares what his research is telling him about the market employers are navigating and where vendors are still getting it wrong. Friend of the show, Mervyn Dinnen, then joins me to talk about the reality behind the AI hype and how the multi-generational workforce is reshaping the world of work. Hi Wolfgang, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
A pleasure to be talking to you. Can you just introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do?
I usually help companies to recruit better. I used to run Philips recruiting and SAP recruiting on the EMEA level. And since more than 10 years with the Institute for Competitive Recruiting, I like to improve the recruitment in the DACH area and seeing that even in the Netherlands, but in the US, it's 5 to 10 years ahead of the recruitment function. And so I try to close the gap. That's my mission.
Just before we started recording, we were talking about the long time we've both spent working in this industry and how it never gets boring.
Shame on us.
And how it never gets boring. And this is obviously a time of significant sort of technological driven change or potential change. What are you seeing at the moment? What's actually kind of happening out there? How is technology affecting or changing recruiting at the moment?
Yeah, of course it's AI. What can I tell? Everything is something else. I think the skills-based hiring used to be more hype issue, but I haven't heard it that much anymore. Or maybe it's included in the AI function, but it's maybe a little bit kickback or something. But anyway, it's if I look into, I do a lot of research in the DACH area. Look into my data of a couple of thousand, 100 companies. then even AI and skill-based recruiting is on number 6 or 15 or something. So it's pretty much low, lot lower than the hype that we see. And it's the normal things like how to get people, and employer branding is still number 1 and number 2. So that the hype things are going up and down. But of course the AI stuff is that much increasing last years. I haven't seen any technology increase the last 15 years skyrocketing like this.
Digging in on that, what are the biggest challenges that you think employers are facing kind of across Europe at the moment?
It's a paradox situation. I talked to some guys over here as well. It looks like it's not only in the DACH area. The thing is, you on the one side you have too many applications, the application tsunami, and on the other hand you have too low numbers of applications. So you have scarcity and you have a surplus market in the same time, and that's pretty new, I think. And even how it's about you, I don't know, but 30 years I haven't seen this mixed. Usually it was either a surplus or a scarcity market, but currently it's both. And it's both sometimes in the same company.
It is interesting, and I as you say, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it before. What do you think is driving it? What are the kind of the forces behind that?
Yeah, it's the economy, of course, and the demographical change. So there's of course, economy. It's not strong enough to really support real needs in the market, especially and if the economy is not good enough, then you cut spendings, and you cut spendings where you don't have the ROI right away. So meaning like marketing or maybe HR even, where you don't see there's a real money coming out of it. That's been cut in, and so that's why you have the high numbers. It's even if we see this in Germany, we have the number of vacancies went down by 50% or even more, and the number of people who apply for it is about the same. So you easily have twice the number of applications besides any other issue that you might have. And on the other hand, then you have demographic effects already. People with strong knowledge leaving the companies and need to be replaced. And then you have companies who have for those vacancies only 5 to 6 applications in half a year. So, but they still look for people and look for very good people, and that's the two-way issue.
Do you think part of that is also that the skills employers are looking for are changing?
No, not really. You can have this, but you have this if you have new job profiles that arise. But it's not that many. It's not like in the during the internet time when you have all the web designer stuff and some stuff. For the AI, it's the prompt engineer is not that much of a hype job. Didn't became a hype job that we thought of. It was paid like $300,000 in the US sometime, but it's fast. The AI is moving fast. So prompt engineering is not that needed anymore. So I wouldn't say that's depending on the different profiles. It's more than the economy and the demographic change.
Looking out across the exhibition, there are so many kind of vendors here mainly selling something to do with AI. Obviously, I don't think we've ever seen more technology in the recruiting space. Do you think that the software vendors are solving the right problems? Do you think that it's kind of fit for purpose? Are the employers that you're talking to finding technology helping them, or is it just kind of more noise in a difficult situation?
No, I wouldn't say so. It's more like some vendors have very good solutions, but haven't addressed it to the pain points. If I looked into the booths and see what's on the top and what the claim is, then sometimes it's something that I have to ask them, what are you really doing? So if they don't address pain point and say, I talked to some of them saying, isn't that something that addresses the pain point of tsunamis, of application tsunamis? Couldn't you then reduce the number of applications quite fast and very good? Yes. Why don't you put it on your sign? So why do I have to think about it and ask for what are you really doing? So the solutions is there. It's not overselling. It's not, but they don't think. That's usually happens if it's a new company, then they more like CTO driven, and they like to sell the product, not the pain points, not addressing the pain points.
Yeah, and I think the other thing as well is that very often people are picking a problem to solve, which is a problem for an employer, but it's like number 20 on the employer's list of things they need to fix. And as you say, actually the same solution can solve something much higher up the priority chain and get things moving quicker.
But addressing the application tsunami is very high on the list.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pressing.
Yeah.
That's really pressing, and if they should know it. And then if they have solutions for it, then why not advertise it that way?
Things are changing, perhaps not as quickly as the hype would have us believe. But how do you think the role of TA is evolving? Are you seeing companies sort of change their approach or change what they do? Or do you think that there might be sort of more change coming up?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the company. I always say the future is there, not by everyone, at everybody. But the larger companies, they think those through a lot further. And think of, not how can we be more efficient, but how can we be more qualitative, improving the recruitment process. Because if it's this should be questioning if some studies saying it's every employee gets like 40% more more efficient, why is not the company getting 40% more efficient? There must be something wrong. Who's owning the new 40% of the work? And but on the other hand, the other company, the bigger, the smarter companies, looking at the recruitment process and think, how can we re-engineer the recruitment process using AI? Because what's boring, what's a waste of time, what's not really creating value. And address this and work like this, rearrange the whole process, and then distribute the roles again. So the role of recruiters will then change into more like an orchestra, dealing with or organizing all the AI agents once they work. We had last year already the year of the agents. Didn't happen. Now I see some more, but still the adoption rate is pretty low, and this will take some time. Regulation stuff or whatever, it holds back, but it's not all. It has AI sign on it, is AI included, so that's something else. But at least it's a lot of promises and still needs to proof of the pudding, so to show the proof of the pudding. That's something. And once it's easier and has a stamp of saying it's compliant, then it's easier to sell and it's easier to use.
Wolfgang, thank you very much for talking to me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Mervyn, always good to see you. Welcome back to the show for the 50th time, probably.
I'm not sure it's that, but it's approaching. It's approaching. This must be the 7th or 8th time.
I kind of look back and you've not been on the show for ages, actually. So you were due an appearance, but here we are, HR Tech Europe, Amsterdam, second day. Been an interesting 48 hours, listening to some of the things that have been going on, what's being discussed. Obviously, we both go to a lot of conferences. What do you kind of make of the conversation here? What sort of stood out for you? What's been different from other things that you've heard in the last year or so?
Well, a lot of people seem obsessed by this thing called AI.
Yes.
It seems to enter every conversation. It's almost before we say, hello, my name is, it's AI. No, I expected that. Obviously, we have a number of vendors here who all have products, who all have ways to encourage you to use their AI. I think that what I've liked from some of the sessions I've been to is that we're getting a good balance. So I went to one earlier this morning, and it was about kind of AI agents, getting involved in the recruitment process. But it was quite interesting, showing where things can go wrong, where things can be duplicated, but where the agents sometimes actually can almost correct things. So I think that's, the way we use it and the way we implement it is, I think, what is most important. And I know that there are a number of, I think, courses and workshops now available for HR people to actually kind of, themselves learn all about it, so they can oversee what they need to oversee, and they can see the negatives and where it might be open to misuse and things.
That whole AI readiness thing is such a big topic, and it's certainly something we're going to be sort of looking at closely on the podcast in the coming weeks and months. I wanted to just talk about something that I know is very much in the sphere of what you talk about at the moment. What's kind of struck me is this has come up in a number of conversations. Now, I was in the US a few weeks ago, and it didn't really come up in any conversation. So there's an interesting difference, and that's basically aging populations.
Yes.
So there are obviously a number of countries in Europe that are acutely aware that they have an aging workforce, and this has come out a number of times when people have been talking about jobs being lost to AI, and also people just being laid off randomly because of alleged AI cuts, and companies using a lot of talent when talent is scarce. What's your sort of take on this sort of particular topic, the sort of demographics that we're sort of seeing? Because it is the same in the US as well, but it doesn't seem to be talked about quite as much as in some of the countries in Europe. Or have I got that wrong? What's your take?
No, I think you're right. I, as you know, write and speak a lot around kind of the 5-generation workforce, and the fact that, I suppose at the top end, the traditional kind of model of retirement is very much doesn't exist anymore. I mean, there are some people, and I know personally of one or two people who've reached that age and they literally have stopped working, or they've sold their share of their business, and they're just going to spend the next few years enjoying life. But there is a lot of evidence that people nowadays don't want to just suddenly stop working when they reach their mid-late 60s. They want to carry on. They enjoy what's happening. They enjoy, I think, being part of this developing world of work. So we certainly in Europe see in a lot of industries this kind of 5-generation workforce, and the more senior, shall we say, more experienced part of the workforce are then able to help, obviously, the Gen Z and Alpha Gen learn the ropes, bring them in. There is a bit of intergenerational difficulties, which is one of the things, as you know, I research, write and talk about a lot. But most of that is just, I think, a failure to understand the priorities of different generations on a personal level, and needing to recognise that the kind of I suppose for the boomers and Gen X still in the workforce, the way that their careers grew are not kind of open to people joining the workforce now, or who have joined the workforce over the last 4 or 5 years. It's a very different progression model.
And is there a reckoning coming with all of this? Because, at the same time, people talking about talent shortages and just a lack of workers because of sort of demographics that are kind of baked in for decades, essentially. But at the same time, we're still essentially seeing lots of ageism in the hiring process and in layoffs and things like that. And I know it's something that's particularly prevalent in the UK. So are we heading for a real issue where those two things collide? There's not enough people, there's ageism, but then you've got AI as well. It seems like everything's in the mix at the moment.
It is, which makes it a fascinating time for people like you and me, who spend our time researching, writing, speaking about these things. I think it is. I think that there is definitely. I wouldn't say a reckoning, because that makes it sound a bit almost biblical. Plagues or something. No. There won't be a reckoning. But I think that we will. I mean, certainly in the UK, we're at a bit of a crossroads politically. This isn't a political podcast, so we won't talk about that. But there is obviously a big difference between how older people vote and how younger people vote in terms of priorities. So there is a bit of a difference there. But I think that people who feel that they have something to contribute will continue working because they enjoy it. And I refer back to conversations I've had in the past on my own podcast about the multi-generational workforce, about how there was a project to do with banking, and that they couldn't find enough people to actually fill it. So what they did was reach out to effectively retired bankers who had retired, late 50s, early 60s, with good pensions and with savings and stuff, but who actually missed the nip and tuck of work. And they managed to recruit, I think, about a dozen of them to do this project. And so they've now got this kind of team of experienced people who actually enjoy doing project work. So whether or not that limits opportunities for people to progress, possibly, but then again, there is a knowledge transfer available.
Interesting times. And so final question, from the conversations you've had, the things that you've seen, what's been the most surprising or interesting thing that you've heard or seen in the last couple of days?
I was at a session this morning, and it was very much looking at the where AI agents can go wrong. And that was quite interesting. Just some examples of where there still needs some kind of human oversight, because the agents can go off certain directions which maybe are not or maybe not legally compliant, so that was interesting. I mean, I need to think a bit about that and maybe write it up. But so I think that, as always with a new technology, I mean, you and I go back to the early days of social media. There's a huge rush of people jumping in, sending a couple of tweets, although it's X messages now, and thinking they were social media experts. And I'm guessing that we have a lot of AI experts who have listened to a few podcasts and read a few articles on LinkedIn or something and think they're AI experts.
I'm sure that's the case, but I think we can see that things are starting to get more complicated. The rubber is hitting the road. These things have to deliver now. Mervyn, a pleasure to talk to you as ever. I'm sure you'll be back on the show soon. I'll get my agent to talk to your agent to sort it out.
Of course.
My thanks to Wolfgang and Mervyn. You can follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can search all the past episodes at recruitingfuture.com. On that site, you can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Recruiting Future Feast, and get the inside track on everything that's coming up on the show. Thanks very much for listening. I'll be back next time, and I hope you'll join me.
This is my show.